Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We'll just wait a few minutes until everyone's here. Good to see some people have followed through the whole day, actually.
Let me know when you want me to start, and I'll push us live.
Okay. All right. So we can start the streaming now then.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's with great pleasure that I get to introduce this particular film by Maternal Fantasies. This film, for me, summarizes almost all of my thoughts around care, and especially the meaning of care during a global pandemic. It's a very, I mean, it's even in its title, Love and Labor, Intimacy and Isolation, Care and Survival. It kind of encapsulated a lot of the things I have been thinking of. So it did hit a chord with me personally when I first saw it, because it reflected on my experiences of what it means to be a mother, an educator, working in the arts, while also being a community organizer, and all these different kinds of roles we inhabit while still, you know, caring for ourselves and our community in our daily lives, and things that usually remain invisible and under acknowledged, I would say. So I am very, very pleased to be able to show this film here today, and to include this film in our program on care, and to have the honor to welcome the artists today who are two artists who are members of the Maternal Fantasies collective. A few words about the collective. Maternal Fantasies is an interdisciplinary group of international artists and cultural producers based in Berlin. They shape the discourse on motherhood through collective artistic processes while enhancing the visibility of contemporary feminist positions addressing motherhoods in the arts. From writing autobiographical responses to classic feminist texts to devising performances using children's games, their art practice favors inclusive community-oriented experiments as alternatives to traditional structures of art production. So, bridging theory and practice, their strategy transforms research on motherhoods, care work, and representation in the arts into frameworks for immersive modes of critique. Their members are Lina Chen, I apologize for pronunciations, Michaela Heldingdahl, Magdalena Kallenberger, Hanne Klaas, Maisira Liao, Aino El Sol, Isabell Spengler. Again, apologies if I have mispronounced your names, yeah? And we have the honor of having Isabell and Magdalena here. A few words about Isabell. Isabell Spengler is Berlin based. She's an artist working in the field of expanded cinema. In her work, she examines social and media technological changes, gender constructions, and power relations in everyday situations. Inhabiting a world of self-designed costumes, props, language, logic, and time structure, her fantastic-looking protagonists struggle to fit in, appropriate, transform, or just live in the real environments they encounter. And Magdalena, she's also based in Berlin, a visual artist, researcher, and writer, working across film, photography, and installation. Magdalena holds an MFA in Media Art and BFA both from the University of Arts Berlin. Her practice-based PhD, titled Reproduction, Chronopolitics, Affective Labor, Care, and the Paternal, takes diverse forms of research materials as a starting point to reposition the maternal as a space of social, political, cultural, and economic conflict. Her artistic language combines art historical references with autobiographical elements and personal narratives using humor and poetic fiction as a subversive method. And yeah, over to you, Magdalena.
Thank you so much, Anna.
And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Anna, for this lovely introduction and for welcoming us into the reading assembly. We are super happy to be able to show you our performance. We are like just 2 members of the artist collective Maternal Fantasies. We consist of like 7 female artists and 10 children. And originally it was not the plan that no men men are not allowed in the group, but no men care to join a collective focusing on care, motherhood, and so on. So just as an introduction, and we come from various cultural and national backgrounds, like Lena Chen is Chinese American and Olga from Iceland. And so like we cover lots of countries, but all of us found each other living in Berlin. And Isabel?
Yeah, I can say a few words briefly about the work we're going to see, the video performance. It was created during the first lockdown phase in Germany and premiered in June 2020 at the Berlin Haus der Kulturen der Welt in an event called New Alphabet School #care. Mm-hmm. And originally it was also supported by the M1 Förderpreis der Arthur Boskamp Stiftung. So as a collective, we won a prize for a year-long residency with an exhibition. And this exhibition was planned to happen in summer 2020. But due to the COVID crisis, we could not shoot our originally planned film and reacted by conceptualizing a new work and thematizing or about the current situation, which in our mind had highlighted all the issues our work was about anyhow. So that's how we created this video performance, and we can talk some more about it after showing the 22-minute long video.
We cannot hear you, Anna.
Yeah, sorry. Classic. It's a brilliant film, and I hope you'll enjoy it. I think it will be a great way of closing this brilliant day. There will be a Q&A, so please stay with us so you can join us in the Q&A after the film. And if I may ask, if everyone, especially the panelists, if you can go on the right-hand corner of your screen and minimize your screen. Okay, I think, Lisa, we can now start streaming the film.
I'm thinking of Chantal Ackermann's film Gentleman, the potato peeling scene. I feel people who peel potatoes for someone else are caring. I wonder if mothers in other generations have peeled more or less potatoes than our days. Because you don't really see the kids helping in the movies with the housework. At least I haven't seen that very often. Sasha, do you think you like to peel potatoes?
No. I am longing for your tender touch. I am longing for a physical connection with you. Come close to me. With what is the farthest end of your body? Match with me. Don't keep your feet on the ground. It is all about something invisible, up in the air, in the in-betweenness. Dark.
Color.
Dark.
Dark.
Light. Dark. Dark.
Color.
Light. Light.
Aku mau Sarman saya ya.
Dark.
Apa saya?
Light.
Itu saya aku mau saya apa?
Dark. Dark. Dark.
My mother tells me the safest place to be is inside at home. I've been trying to get pregnant this entire time. And this is the closest I've felt to my mother in years. It feels suffocating.
Jag ska börja leken nu. Jag börjar leka. Ska vi leka nu?
Stay fit and healthy. Active distraction. Listen to your body. Drink water regularly. Keep a routine. Keep your working place clean and organized. Take time to take care of yourself. Set goals. Find joy and call a friend. Take mental inventory of your well-being. Limit media intake. Look for the light. Stay virtually connected with family and friends. Don't take on too much. Be generous. Plan your meals. Start a daily meditation. Find a healthy escape.
We should unite ourselves. We should keep distance. Domestic, labor, differences are bigger. Carers, wash, cook, don't touch. We are all called upon to contain the spread of. We are all called upon to contain the spread of. We are all called upon to contain the spread of.
I recently learned that latex gloves don't really protect against viruses. because they have pores. In my son's kindergarten, they use these latex gloves to change diapers, because the parents would also help in the kindergarten taking care of the kids. And the ICS sometimes made fun and blow them up as balloons. So sometimes when you care, you can also play. Olga, can you come closer? Samuel, can you comb my hair a bit? Gentle. Don't hurt each other.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Come closer. It's okay. Don't get too close to the ones you love. If you get too close to the ones you love, you can hurt them. Keep the distance of 1.5 meters. Aino, can you please comb Selma's hair? Selma, can you please comb Mikala's hair? Can you try to comb it? Very careful. Samuel, can you please comb my hair? Come here. We are one big family of remote caring. At least we can try. Long distance is not the same as close distance. Thank you.
I'm terrified at giving birth alone, but also I don't know who to bring. I don't have a father for my baby. I thought that maybe my mom could join me, but somehow that seems too intimate. I thought I could pay a doula to join me, but somehow I don't want to make my birth a financial transaction. I thought maybe I can convince my lover to join me, but he's reluctant. A friend can join me, but she has never given birth before, and I fear she will freak out at the blood and the pain and the intensity of it all.
I wake up every morning and each day is the same.
I wake every morning and each day is the same.
I wake up every morning and each day is the same.
I wake up every morning and each day is the same.
I wake up every morning and each day is the same.
I wake up every morning and each day is the same.
I wake up every morning and each day is the same. Okay, jetzt machen wir selber Skulptur. Ihr dürft dann Pfanne nehmen.
Nice. Thank you for that. Every time I see it, I see something different. Brilliant. Okay, so just to point out, we have a chat so people can type in their questions or comments or thoughts, and we can look back at them later on. But I wanted to ask a question that's been in my head since I first saw the film, and it's to do with the practicalities of making a film on Zoom. I was like, how many times did you rehearse to make it work like this? We have been working on Zoom for so long and we can barely make the videos move all around all the time. But also this is such a, I found the film really relevant to the mediated kind of experiences of socializing, the mediated ways of teaching, mediated ways of making art in a medium that is so contested. That's supposed to be accessible, but not for everyone. So I was really keen to hear about, the practicalities of making a film and whether you had purposefully reflected on these mediated experiences through the actual performance and documentation of the film, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you for that question. Yes, of course. I mean, in our I'm disappearing. In our meetings before, we would meet every 2 weeks or so in person in Mikala's studio, so the kids could play together while we would talk, and we would also have performative exercises together with the kids. And all of that, of course, was not possible anymore. And so suddenly our meetings had to happen in this digital format, which is like a two-sided sword. I mean, on the one hand, we were able to address and show the private domestic space, which suddenly also in teaching and I mean, everybody is confronted with a less hierarchical situation, which can also be a very good thing because everybody, now we have a virtual background now, but usually people are showing their homes. But also, of course, we were suddenly divided in this virtual space and the kids could not play together in the same way. Daily life spending with no kindergarten and homeschooling and so forth was very different. So yes, of course, we were very aware and wanted to address that change of format. About the practicalities, how often did we rehearse? So usually we work with rotational authorship and rotational directing, which means for this work, we developed a score and each member would propose a 1-minute action that everybody would join in. And a short text or statement that could be like a voiceover or instructional. And also in our group, we often have a smaller group doing the concept. So the idea for this came from Lena Chen and Olga Sora Rensen. And then we rehearsed several times, sometimes with the children and sometimes without. Of course, this idea to really involve, we had done live performances with our children before, but to involve them in this way, we also had to think of actions that would be fun for them to do. And actually in our rehearsals, the children sometimes also were co-authors and came up with some actions that we should all do. And that was really fun, but in the end, decided that conceptually this piece is really about the perspective of the mothers, and that since they couldn't join, I mean, first of all, they're all really different ages, and not everybody is of the younger kids is interested in having a speaking role. And secondly, they couldn't join our late night Skype meetings to view rehearsals, and we didn't want to, we wanted to set the focus on the perspective of the mothers.
But I think most importantly, it's like we try to keep always very simple structures that we define. We say, okay, we use the background of the kitchen. Everyone provides one action or one phrase to say. So this is like how we get a kind of fluidity as well with rehearsal. If someone cannot join the one time, next time they can join in and the others follow up. Like we include actually inconsistency, we include failure. You heard children's voices in between, we don't eliminate them. We include actions that are not perfect. All these kind of things that come with the process of being not professional actors, and including the children, we include as part of the work and process of the work.
But I think that's why the film feels so real. It felt so real for me, because I was in a situation where I would be constantly interrupted, and there was all these different kinds of roles that I would have to identify as a woman, and a mother in the house with the children breaking down the house while I'm watching a film made by it was like a really, really interesting moment where I became aware of my domestic environment, which is what happens when, I think in Chantal Akerman's film, it's how your film starts with a reference to Chantal Akerman's film, which is this haunting echo of your domesticity, the domestic utensils and the language around that. So that's actually my, if you would like to talk a bit more about the cinematic kind of language that you invented to reflect about on the different aspects of caring. Obviously, there are a lot of connotations here around feminist histories and nurturing yourself, but also a child care. And I wonder if, the language of care and how all these kind of stereotypical identifications with womanhood and motherhood still apply, and how does your film maybe touch upon that? Did you use a particular kind of editing or creating a relationship between the sounds and the visuals that would try and break down that kind of stereotypical narrative maybe?
I mean, like first it's conceptualized as a live performance, which was pre-shot for the official premiere, but it's like a one take. So there is no, like we recorded it in one rush, and there is no editing in it.
Okay.
I think just in two minor things, we adjusted the sound and played with that, but besides that, it's actually a one take, which is, I think, really important. And then the second aspect, it was conceptualized as a performance, but of including the private spaces. So you see sometimes people reaching with hands or arms towards the other space and bringing it, connecting through the virtual space, which I find interesting, but it's in between performance and film. And Isabell, maybe you want to?
Yeah, I mean, for example, in the scene where everybody holds up a sign, so we're forming a sentence together as a group, or in the scene where we're trying to comb each other's hair. Yeah. Some people are also trying to comb through the Zoom meeting frame another person's hair, which is of course impossible. So we were trying to address this situation of being at the same time connected, but also far apart from each other.
And then, I mean, from the cinematic aspects, there is some analog editing, like when you see the objects approaching closely, which would be in editing a wipe or a hard cut, but it's like very analog. And in that sense, I find it as well humoristic to use these household items to show the transfer from one scene to the other. And about the aesthetic, I mean, I think we have a very strong visual aesthetic, the way we use props, colors, and we are very consciously aware of our style, but it's a very imperfect style. It includes always real elements, but it tries to take them out of the daily life while still being based in the daily life. So, I mean, this is a kind of space where the visual links through the autobiographical, actually, or the actual everyday.
Yeah, I think I would echo that. Sorry, Isabel. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I could say that in our work prior to this, we were working with a lot with tableaux vivants and staged group tableaus with the children and the mothers. I mean, in the back you see one thing, but it's not even so representative for what I mean. What I mean was more forming one collective body in these tableaus and showing group relationships, and to transfer this idea to the virtual Zoom performance maybe means that rather than, I mean, this medium of the performance for the camera is a very common artistic tool that also feminist artists have used a lot to do a performance for the camera, where you can use all these parameters of changing the light, but to do it collectively, I think opens up a new possibilities to do a performance for the camera collectively,
and I think
in a collage kind of way.
This imperfection, but that the faults that are also included is like I think it's really interesting. You create these really interesting relationships between the kind of canonical feminist texts and then the real concrete translation of that in the real life, and then also bring in I don't know, like personal experiences. So it's not just the collective, it's everyone is doing their own thing. I think it really worked really well to have all these different elements come together.
And it's really important, the timeliness, that it happens live and at the same moment, that we are doing this with each other, we are reacting on each other, we look what the others are doing while having our instructions. But it's really important that these things, it's part of our thinking of showing several aspects of motherhood. Always speaking about motherhoods and not the motherhood, or all these kind of things. It's as well a theoretical framework on how to approach the stories we tell.
Exactly, and the use of humor as a strategy as well, I found really relevant. I think because we've had a lot of people, and the whole project is about care, and care is such a popular word that has, as if it has emerged out of nowhere all of a sudden during the pandemic. But there's a whole history of, the feminist, the social reproduction movement, and lots of different kinds of feminist narratives around care that have become quite mainstream. So the word care in itself for me is quite problematic, but there is a whole different kind of approach from all our different research groups, and we've had people who have joined us today from Reading, from Canada, from South Africa, and this is quite an urgent issue that affects a lot of people, especially, and has come to the fore during the pandemic. So I was wondering, what are your kind of care systems, or your kinds of understanding of care as a group of feminist women artists that are also mothers? And
like one aspect I wanted to point out, I just read today that, like, if, for example, in Switzerland, care would be actually paid. It would be the biggest economical sector worth 360 trillion. And I mean, like, this is what comes out with this kind of invisibility that was there before and that the pandemic highlighted in some way. So on the one side, there is this economical aspect. There is the throwback constantly through capitalism on the individuum and the individual responsibility. And I think this is the biggest step that we are trying to make, to go away from the individual responsibility towards building a village. And I mean, even in the pandemic, when we couldn't meet in person anymore, to have the structure of weekly meetings online after the kids slept, doing these writing sessions, listening to each other's stories, it was such a growth of interpersonal connections and having empathies. And as well, what I found really important, and John Toronto mentions it once in like, taking the perspective from someone else's foot, something like along the line of that. And this is something what I find, what we think of how we use care. We don't think that we take someone else's perspective, but we are trying to take someone else's perspective. So for example, in this film, because I couldn't take part in most of the rehearsals, I actually took the script from Isabell, who scripted the scene. And this is how we deal with each other as well, that sometimes we perform each other's stories and take them on as a skin. And this is why there is no right and wrong. There's next to each other and being with each other and thinking through each other and this kind of thing. And so I would say, like, the care aspect we have is on practical levels of working with each other, of being generous with each other, of sharing roles, of rotating, as well of taking on the lead of someone else, not always being the leader, not always taking the credit. All these things go together with what I would say the care process of the involvement and highlighting the entanglement that we are all interwoven with as a collective, but as well in a wider context as a society. And I mean, that's the problem we face at the moment, that there is always this individual responsibility instead of looking for the collective good, if you want to say.
We called it, we've touched upon this because many people, when they talk about care, they start thinking about how do they care for their family, and then it's really difficult to disengage from that affective kind of labor and think of the bigger care. So we building this care vocabulary we've been doing with many other groups. The small care and the big care as terms came to the fore. Small care being the voluntary kind of care you don't have to do, but you do it anyway. And the big care is the care that should have been in place by the state or the governments of different countries. And it's quite this kind of inequalities and with regards to accessibility of care and people having to organize and rely on different networks to care for each other have really exacerbated the problems that for those who cannot have those kind of networks. But I think it's really important for artists as well to listen to you, how you've managed to pull through this period and do this kind of work via Zoom. It's like there's light in the tunnel. People have managed to produce something this brilliant. But I'm really aware of time. I probably should stop talking and maybe hear from our attendees or other panelists if someone has any questions. Well, yeah, if not, then maybe I could prompt everyone maybe to have a look at the care vocabulary, and if people feel like leaving a comment in the chat with regard to what does care mean for you. We've got a take action point in the website.
maybe then if
Yes,
there's space, I can make a quick advertising for our upcoming publication. Please watch out for it. It's like where we display all our methods and what we have accomplished, and not what we have accomplished, but what we have developed and the discourses we are, especially with feminist histories, pretty much involved in. It will come up in July with onomatopoeia, and it's called Reassembling Motherhoods on Radical Care and Collective Practice as Feminist practices. I mixed it up.
I have to finish your sentence.
Maybe you can put it in the chat, please. Yeah. And James was asking, the work is publicly available for 2 weeks, I think 1 more week through our website, just to make sure, because one of the things we wanted to do was to allow for different research groups that are part of this project to be able to watch the films in their own time, because we have lots of vulnerable groups that have been taking part in the project. We wanted to make sure that it's available for everyone for at least 1 more week. So you can find it in the website, James.
And the quality will be better than with the streaming. So as well, please look at it, and then the images are more brilliant.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you both for being here. It's been really, really amazing. Oh, we've got one more message. Yes, James says, thanks. Okay. Thank you so much, Isabell and Magdalena. And we'd love to hear more from you in the future.
Yeah.
Please take your time, everyone, and visit. There's a bit of a reflection point to maybe reflect back on what we heard and what we saw, and leave our thoughts about our experience of taking part in the project, but also for particular sessions. So please do take, it's in the take action part. Lauren, if you could post that here in the chat, that would be really helpful. Thank you. But yeah, thank you very much. It's been a real joy to watch the film again and have you here. Thank you, everyone.